Part 12. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 111. Chapter 111. Who are you? Zhang Luli, you are so unscrupulous just because you are a woman. Do you really think I don't dare to hit women? Zhang Luli pointed at her nose and scolded her repeatedly. Suzy became angry, and his cold eyes fell like knives. Onto her. Haha, you don't dare. Zhang Luli is a typical example of a fox pretending to be a tiger. She pointed at Mo Yesi and said, my boyfriend is here. If you dare to touch me, he will definitely have people beat you to the ground. Since she is Qiao Mianmian's good friend, Mo Yesi is also very cooperative. He hugged Qiao Mianmian and said in a cold voice, moving in front of me. Mr. Su, you Su family also want to imitate Zhengui and experience what it's like to be broke overnight. Mo Yesi's light words made Suzi's expression change instantly. His eyes widened in shock. Zhengui Group went bankrupt, it was you who led. Mo Yesi said nonchalantly, Shenghui lasted for 18 hours and declared bankruptcy. With Su's strength, he must be able to hold on for a few more hours. Suzi's face changed again, becoming 2 points paler. Of course he knew that Zhengui Group went bankrupt overnight. This matter is considered a big fuss. A well-run listed company will be gone if it is said to be gone. Moreover, it disappeared overnight. It can't help but make other colleagues a little worried. Even Sushi secretly investigated the reason. But nothing was found. Suzy never expected that the person who made Zhengui bankrupt overnight would be standing in front of him. Who are you? Suzy asked in shock. It is unimaginable how rich the financial resources of the other party can disrupt Zhengui's stock market overnight and make Zhengui go bankrupt. Even Su family does not have such ability. Who is this man? If he is really such a great person, why does he look so unfamiliar? He knows more or less all the powerful people in Yun City. Mo Yesi seemed to be looking down at the ants at his feet, his eyes silent and disdainful. You don't have to know who I am. But there is one thing you must know. Qiao Mianmian is my woman, and any man who dares to covet her is, court death. I don't care what the relationship was between you and her before. Now that you are separated, her future life has nothing to do with you. If I find out that you dare to harass her secretly, I will make Sushi become colder faster than Shenghui. After saying this, he withdrew his gaze and did not bother to look at Suzy again. If it weren't for the fact that this person named Su was Qiao Mianmian's ex-fiancé, a person of this status wouldn't even be qualified to talk to him. The Su family is a famous family in the eyes of others. But in the eyes of the Mahists, he is just a minion. Baby, let's go. Mo Yesi hugged Qiao Mianmian and walked past Suzy. The bodyguards brought by Suzy still wanted to stop them. As soon as they made a move, they heard the sound of chaotic footsteps approaching. A person in charge of the banquet hall led a group of security guards and hurried over. Whoever makes trouble here will be kicked out immediately. The person in charge saw Suzy's bodyguards and immediately said in a cold voice, how dare you to make trouble in the banquet hall? Don't you know where this place is? Get these people out of here right away. After receiving the order, the security guards immediately went over to blast people. Suzy only brought 4 bodyguards. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 112. Chapter 112. Who makes his status unbelievable? More than a dozen security guards were involved in Yanting, and Yanting's security guards were all selected from the most professional security companies. In terms of physique and skill, they were more powerful than Suzy's bodyguards. When the security guards came to attack, Suzy's face turned green. I am the Xiaodong of Su's enterprise, and I am a platinum card user of your banquet. These bodyguards are all ours, so please step aside immediately. To become a Yanting platinum card user, you need to spend more than 10 million yuan here every year. Yanting attaches great importance to this group of high consumption users. In the past, when Suzy came to Yanting, people here were polite to him. But today, even after hearing him say that he was a platinum card user, the person in charge still did not give him any face and said coldly, "You are a diamond card user. If you dare to cause trouble in the banquet, you will be driven away. Mr. Su, you have to leave on your own, or should we drive you away?" In fact, in normal times, Yanting would not do this. Originally, all the people who came in and out of this place were the powerful people in Yuncheng. Everyone feels that they are the proud ones of heaven, and their eyes are on the top of their heads. It is inevitable that there will be some conflicts sometimes. They all turn a blind eye. But this time, the person Su Xiao offended was a member of the Mo family. Even their boss can't afford to offend anyone from the Mahist family. The only thing we can do is to sacrifice this young master Su, who makes his status inferior to others. Suzy did not expect that Yanting would not only drive away his bodyguards, but also drive him away. Moreover, they drove him away in front of Chiao Mian and the others. He has always had a good reputation, so this was undoubtedly a slap in the face. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. "Your banquet treats guests like this? Call your boss out, and I want to ask him, is this how banquet treats guests?" Haha, the person in charge said funnily when he saw him dragging out the boss. "Our boss is very busy and will not waste time on such small things. I have the final say here, Mr. Su, I think you are the most important. It's better to leave on your own, otherwise, you'll lose face if you're driven out, right?" Seeing that they were determined to drive him away, Suzy knew that if he didn't leave on his own, he might really be made even more embarrassed. Even if he was so angry that he was about to explode, he had to swallow it. Who is the boss behind Yanting? Many people don't know. But everyone knew very well that that was someone they could not afford to offend. "I will expose what you Yanting did to the media." Suzy turned around and left angrily after saying this with a livid face. As soon as he walked to the door, he heard the voice of the person in charge coming from behind him again. This time, the person in charge was no longer sarcastic, but his tone became respectful and flattering, almost flattering. "Mr. Mo, I'm really sorry, because we didn't handle it in time, and Miss Jiao and her friend were affected by bad things." Suzy paused for a moment, and when he turned his head, he saw the person in charge nodding and bowing, as respectfully as possible. Not at all as aggressive as when I faced him before. Such differential treatment made him feel even more embarrassed. His face turned green, and his face looked indescribably ugly. At this moment, his self-confidence and self-esteem suffered a double blow. He always thought that if Chiao Mian left him, it would be impossible to find someone better than him. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 113. Chapter 113. Let the Su family go bankrupt, okay. But no matter how confident he was, he had to admit that the conditions of that mysterious man were excellent. Looking at the respectful attitude of the person in charge of the banquet court towards him, it must be that his status is extremely prominent. Just heard the person in charge call him Mr. Mo. Suzy was suddenly excited and an idea came to his mind. His surname is Mo, and he is so young. He could not be the new CEO who just returned to China, right? But this idea only stayed in his mind for a second, and he immediately rejected it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I heard that the CEO of Mo's company hated women approaching him, saying that he had some kind of misogyny and was very repulsive to women. If he was the president of the Mo family, how could he be so close to Chiao Mian? What's more, With Jiao Mianmian's identity, it is impossible to contact him. After thinking about it like this, Suzy felt a little relieved. If you mess with the Mahists, you will die. Looking at the entire Yunchinj, no one dares to offend the Mo family. Asterisk. After Suzy left. Seeing that Jiao Mianmian was still cold-faced and in a bad mood, Mo Yesi pinched her chin, lowered his head and looked at her and said, "Are you still angry? If you think driving them away is not enough, then I will let Su's family go bankrupt, okay?" Jiao Mianmian opened her eyes wide in surprise. She would think it was a joke if other people said this. Kmo Yesi said this. Jiao Mianmian had no doubt at all that he would really do this. He has such strength. It's better to say goodbye, Jiao Mianmian said hurriedly, although Suzy and I have broken up. And I am quite annoyed now. However, the grudge between me and him should not be extended to his family. His parents, it's pretty good for me. What she said is true. Su's father and Su's mother have always been very kind to her. Especially Su's mother, she almost treated her like her own daughter. Su's mother has always wanted a daughter, but after giving birth to Suzy, it became difficult to conceive again. Hence, she only has one son, Suzy. She herself could not give birth to a daughter, so she transferred her desire for a daughter to Jiao Mianmian. Jiao Mianmian is disgusted with Suzy now, but she does not continue to hate Su's father and Su's mother because of this. After hearing this, Mo Yesi narrowed his eyes. His parents are very good to you? Yes. The man's deep eyes narrowed again, with a clear hint of dissatisfaction. Do you like his parents very much? Jiao Mianmian was stunned for a moment, and then she realized that he was not very happy. It's okay. It's not like she likes him, nor does she dislike him. After guessing what he might be minding, she didn't dare to tell the truth. She was afraid that once she told the truth, he would be really angry. She now knows Mo Yesi a little bit. He seems to not care about anything, but in fact, he is very cautious about many things. Hearing what she said, the man's expression softened a bit. He placed a warm hand on top of her head, touched it, and said in a deep voice, "You and Suzy have broken up. After you break up, you will become strangers. In the future, try to have as little contact with him or his family as possible to avoid getting involved." Unclear. Jiao Mianmian nodded obediently. "I understand." Anyway, she followed whatever he said, and it was absolutely correct. Seeing how obedient she was, Mo Yesi's expression softened a little. He turned his head and looked at Zhang Luli, then looked around, and asked doubtfully, "Don't you have two roommates? Where have they gone?" Thank you to 7 points of a girl's heart, Love in the Sky and Falling Rain, and Lily for the reward. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 114. Chapter 114. For you, I am willing to accommodate you. Jiao Mianmian never thought of telling the truth to Mo Yesi. She originally wanted to find an excuse. But Zhang Luli said it directly and quickly. They had a conflict with us and went back. Mo Yesi raised his eyebrows. There's a conflict. What kind of conflict? Before Jiao Mianmian could stop him, she heard Zhang Luli spouting out everything that had happened. After saying that, she asked angrily, "God, do you think they are going too far? You gave them gifts and invited them to eat at such a nice place, but they actually thought Mian was deliberately showing off. You were not present, I didn't see them looking so sore at that time, it was really eye-catching." After hearing this, Mo Yesi's face darkened slightly. He lowered his head and asked Jiao Mian, "Is that what she said?" Jiao Mian glanced at Zhang Luli helplessly, sighed, and nodded. She really didn't want Mo Yesi to think that there were so many top-notch weirdos around her. Well, the thought of living in the same dormitory with them for more than half a year makes me heartbroken, Zhang Luli said with a grimace. Then change dormitories. Mo Yesi said directly, this matter is simple. I'll ask someone to tell the school and you can move to dormitories tonight. Don't live with other people anymore, just the two of you. A dormitory. Wow, really? I have no objection, Zhang Luli danced happily. Anyway, since everyone was at odds with each other, she no longer wanted to share a dormitory with Bai Xiao and the others. Moreover, it's not very nice for two people to live in the same dormitory. I heard that the two-person room is a suite, and each person can have a separate small bedroom. It feels very beautiful just thinking about it. Mian, move it, let's live in a double suite from now on. We can enjoy a beautiful world for two. Zhang Luli was afraid that Jiao Mian would not agree, so he grabbed her arm and shook her hard. Okay, move. Jiao Mian also felt that if she stayed in the same dormitory with Bai Xiao and others, everyone would definitely be very unhappy. In this case, it is better to move out. Since her friendship with them has always been average, there is no need to maintain this plastic flower sister friendship. Asterisk. Leave the banquet court. The sky outside has darkened. Mo Yesi checked the time, walked to the black Bentley he drove over, and said to Jiao Mian, let's go, I'll take you back to school. Since you have to move to a dormitory, go back earlier. Hearing what he said, Jiao Mian was stunned for a moment, with a look of surprise on her face. What's wrong? Mo Yesi looked at her with raised lips. She walked slowly to him, glanced at Zhang Luli standing next to her from the corner of her eye, and lowered her voice and said, you want to send me and Lugo back? Has a problem? No, Jiao Mian hesitated for a moment, then whispered, I'm just a little surprised. Uncle Li told me before that your car wouldn't just carry other women. I thought. She thought he wouldn't let Zhang Luli get into his car. That would be a bit embarrassing if that were the case. Mo Yesi put his arm around her waist, lowered his head to her ear, blew gently into her ear, and said in a low voice, well, my car does not carry other women casually. Except mine, my wife and relatives, no other woman has ever gotten in my car. Then how do you? She is your good friend. Baby, for your sake, I am willing to accommodate you. For me, a little discomfort is far less important than you. Update completed today. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 115. Chapter 115 Explanation. What explanation? The man's low and gentle words were like honey, sweetening Jiao Mian's heart. Her heart started beating rapidly again. When I raised my head, I met his deep and charming dark eyes, and my breathing became disordered. Mo Yesi. How can this man be so flirtatious? These intoxicating words of love came to him at his fingertips. She was not prepared at all, and her heart was so provoked by him that it went up and down, fast and slow. Asterisk. Half an hour later, we arrived at school. Zhang Luli got off the car first. After getting off the car, she stood by the car, lifted the bag in her hand, and said with a smile, my God, thank you for your gift and the delicious dinner tonight. If you don't mind, I'll treat you and Mian to dinner when you're free. Zhang Luli now has a very, very good impression of Mo Yesi. She thinks Mo Yesi is 100 times better than that scumbag Suzy. Not only is he more handsome than Suzy, but he is also richer than Suzy. The most important thing is that she can see that he really loves Jiao Mian. You can see it from his attitude towards them. If he didn't value Jiao Mian, there would be no need for him to give her roommate gifts and treat her roommate to dinner. With someone of their status, he is inherently very arrogant. Think about it, Suzy has never invited them to dinner, let alone given them any gifts. And every time he came to the school to see Jiao Mian, he put on airs. Mo Yesi curled his lips and nodded in a dignified manner, okay. Then it's settled. Zhang Luli looked very happy, I can't afford to pay for a high-end restaurant. But I know that there is a barbecue restaurant that tastes very good and is very clean and hygienic. Whenever you are free, just tell me and Mian. We'll go after we finalize the time. You and Mian must have something to talk about alone. I'll go back to the dormitory to pack my luggage first. After saying that, she waved to Chiao Mian and Mo Yesi, then turned around and trotted away. In the car, Mo Yesi glanced in the rearview mirror, raised his lips and said, "This friend of yours is quite sensible. What's her name?" Zhang Luli, hearing Mo Yesi praise her friend, Chiao Mian felt even happier than herself for being praised, and said with a smile on her face, "Luo is very good, she is my best friend." Mo Yesi just asked casually, with no intention of getting to know more. After responding lightly, he said to Chiao Mian, who was still sitting in the back car, "Get out of the car and sit next to me." Chiao Mian thought he had something to say to her, so she unbuckled her seat belt and got out of the car, walked around to the front car, and then sat in the passenger seat. As soon as he sat down, before he could sit firmly, he was pulled away by a strong force. She bumped into the man, and her breath was filled with Mo Yesi's fresh and delicious scent. Chiao Mian felt intoxicated for a moment, as if she was drunk, and her head was a little dizzy. She doesn't like men wearing perfume. But the fragrance on Mo Yesi's body smells very good. Mo Yesi pinched her chin and raised it, his deep and charming eyes looked deeply into hers, his thin lips slightly raised, and his deep voice was particularly magnetic. "Baby, now that your friend is gone, is it time to explain it to me?" "Explanation? What explanation?" Chiao Mian blinked, the expression on her face still a little confused. Obviously didn't know what he was referring to. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 116. Chapter 116. She cried. Mo Yesi lowered his head. The warm thin lips were only less than a centimeter away from her lips. As she spoke, the hot breath fell on the corners of her lips. His fingers gently rubbed her chin, his charming and cold eyes narrowed slightly, and he asked with a bit of coldness, "Why is Suzy at the banquet? You just happened to be eating at the same place." The man seemed to ask casually, but as sensitive as Chiao Mian, he immediately heard another meaning from his words. She was stunned for a moment, blinked, and an inexplicable annoyance suddenly rushed to the top of her head, and her beautiful eyebrows also frowned. "Do you suspect that he and I have an appointment?" Mo Yesi's fingers rubbed her chin harder, his eyes were deep and unpredictable. "Why, are you angry? I just think it's a coincidence." He didn't think it was a coincidence. It was clear that she suspected that she and Suzy had made an agreement in advance. Chiao Mian didn't expect that he would miss her so much. The moment she decided to break up her engagement with Suzy, it was impossible for her to look back. What's more, she is his wife after she marries him. Whether there is love in their marriage or not, she will abide by her duty and be a qualified wife. It is impossible for her to do anything to feel sorry for him before their marriage is over. Looking at the man's clearly suspicious eyes, Chiao Mian felt as if something had stabbed her heart, and she felt inexplicably uncomfortable. At the same time, emotions of anger and disappointment also surged into my heart. She was so angry that she slapped his hand holding her chin, and then pushed him away. Before Mo Yesi could react, she stood up and walked out of his arms, grabbed the satchel she had put aside, opened the car door and got out of the car. What Chiao Mian hates most is the distrust of others. Mo Yesi's suspicious look just now reminded her of Suzy. She thought about the day she was framed by Jiao Angzan, and Suzy didn't even give her a chance to explain, and just chose to believe Jiao Angzan. She felt the disappointment at that moment now. I felt unspeakable grievance in my heart. When I opened the car door, my vision became blurred. At this moment, she didn't even want to explain, she just wanted to leave immediately. As soon as he stepped down with one foot, the man behind him grabbed his arm and pulled him back. She ran into the man's arms again. Strong arms immediately wrapped around her, hugging her tightly. "Let me go." Chiao Mian struggled immediately, beating his strong chest with her little hands, and growled angrily, "Mo Yesi, what are you doing? Let me go and let me get off." The woman's voice, which was sharp because of anger, had a hint of crying. Mo Yesi was stunned for a moment, pinching her chin with his slender fingers, forcing her to raise her head. He frowned in surprise when he saw those starry eyes that had long been covered with a layer of mist and sparkling with tears. She cried. He just saw her ex-boyfriend and felt a little uncomfortable, so he asked such a question. As long as she says everything is just a coincidence, he will believe her. I will not continue to pay attention to this matter. What he wanted was just a word from her. But he didn't expect that his words would make her so angry, that she actually cried. The girl's star-like eyes were stained with tears, and her eyes were red, with grievance and anger in them. The look she looked at him was full of accusations. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 117. Chapter 117. It's my fault, I shouldn't be suspicious. She just stared at him without saying a word. The thick and long eyelashes were stained with tears, and in the blink of an eye, they fell on her pretty and lovely face. Mo Yesi has never felt anything about women's tears. He may even feel upset. If someone tries to win his sympathy with tears, it will only backfire. Even Yan Shaoqing complained more than once, saying that his heart was made of stone, too cold and too hard. No woman can keep me warm. But at this moment, Mo Yesi felt that he was not immune to women's tears. Looking at the girl in his arms with red eyes and an aggrieved and accusing look on her face, he actually felt a little bit distressed. Without any hesitation, he apologized, "Are you crying? Is it because you think I have doubted you? Baby, I'm sorry, I take back everything I just said. Just treat it as if I didn't say anything. Don't worry about it angry with me, huh?" Mo Yesi has never known what it feels like to be flustered. But when he saw Chiao Mianmian's tears falling silently from her eyes one by one, he felt it for the first time. Slender fingers clumsily wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. When the fingertips touched her warm and moist tears, she felt flustered and irritated again. It was okay if he didn't apologize. Once he apologized, the little woman in his arms seemed to cry even harder. Tears kept falling from her eyes like broken beads. Burning tears fell on the back of his hands, burning his heart. "Chiao Mian, don't cry anymore." After feeling that he couldn't coax the little woman in his arms, Mo Yesi frowned tightly, sighed helplessly and regretfully, and held her little girl who was wet from crying. He frowned and said, "Tell me, what should I do so that you won't be angry with me anymore? I don't really doubt you, I believe you won't do anything to betray me." Chiao Mian looked at him with tearful eyes. The more the man coaxed him in a low voice, the more aggrieved she felt. Her eyes were full of accusations, and her voice was hoarse from crying. She choked and said, "You just doubt me. What you meant by that sentence is that you think Suzy and I made an appointment to meet there in advance. Mo Yesi, you know, I hate it when people don't believe me. If you think I still have an old crush on Suzy, then we might as well get divorced. Anyway, you don't believe me anymore, so it's still interesting for us to be together." Hearing the word divorce, Mo Yesi's face suddenly darkened. Just when he was about to get angry, he saw the crying red eyes of the girl in his arms, and the anger in his heart was instantly extinguished. Turned into a sigh of helplessness and annoyance. If he had known that she would cry like this, he would never have asked that question. The man's slender white fingers came to the corners of her eyes again, and gently wiped away the moisture in the corners of her eyes. He reached out and gently pulled her into his arms, softened his voice, and sighed lowly, "Okay, it's my fault, I shouldn't be suspicious." His admission of his mistake resulted in an even more aggrieved complaint from the girl, "It was originally your fault." "Yes, my fault at this moment." Yes, he didn't know what to do except coax her and follow her. He has no experience in coaxing women. "This is the first time in my life that I have coaxed a woman so humbly, and I haven't coaxed her well yet." He felt deeply frustrated. Our purpose is to abuse scumbag sweet articles. Therefore, daily life is to abuse ja and tianation. If you don't abuse me, don't worry about entering the trap. Also, thank you to Kang Kian Luo Yu Ching Yuan and Lily for the reward, okay. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 118. Chapter 118. Baby, have you calmed down? Damn you, Chiao Mian bit her lips and continued to accuse. Yesi nodded, yes, I am hateful. Chiao Mian, you bastard. Yesi. Feeling that although the girl in his arms was still angry with him, her anger had obviously subsided a lot, Yesi finally breathed a sigh of relief. He raised the girl's soft and small chin, lowered his head and kissed her on the lips. He held the corner of her lips and whispered softly, baby, have you calmed down? If not, you can continue to scold me. No matter what you scold, I will. They all admit it. Chiao Mian was furious to death. I was thinking that I would never talk to him again. But the man has such a good attitude in admitting his mistakes. He is as noble as he is. He is a noble young master from a prominent family and a king who stands at the top of a business empire, but he is willing to put down his dignity and coax her with such kind words. He didn't have to do this originally. Even though Chiao Mian is still angry, she is not as angry as she was at first. And when she calmed down, she didn't know how she could be so angry. Even shed tears. This is not like her at all. Even when Suzy chose to believe Jiao Angzan and defended Jiao Angzan in front of her, she never cried. Now, because of Mo Yesi's words, she cried aggrievedly. When did she become so vulnerable? If you are not angry with me anymore, then stop crying. Mo Yesi gently pecked her soft lips again. Your eyes are swollen from crying, are you trying to make me feel bad? The man's voice was unbelievably gentle. Chiao Mian looked at him blankly, and when she glanced into his abyss-like dark eyes, her heart suddenly became confused. Asterisk. When Chiao Mian returned to the dormitory, Zhang Luli was still packing her luggage. As soon as she opened the door and walked in, Zhang Luli saw her and ran towards her happily. Oh my, baby, you're back so soon. Why don't you stay with your boyfriend for a little longer? In the early stages of your relationship, you have to find time to get along and cultivate your relationship. Zhang Luli said it loudly on purpose, as if he was afraid of someone. It's the same as not being able to hear. Chiao Mian suddenly understood when she saw Bai Xiao and Zhang Yue sitting at the desk with cold faces. Her Luoluo is deliberately trying to make people angry. She then cooperated and said, well, he originally wanted to stay with me for a while. I asked him to go back. Why, as newlyweds, shouldn't you want to stick to each other 24 hours a day? Sticking to each other 24 hours a day? It's better not to. Chiao Mian stretched out her hand to touch her nose, making an unbearable gesture. I don't like two people being too sticky. It's better to keep a distance, which will also be more fresh. Feel. That's right. Zhang Luli nodded with understanding expression. It's really not good to be too clingy. However, for such an outstanding man, you'd better keep a close eye on him and don't be too worried. After all, with the conditions of the male god, there are definitely countless women who like him. It would be heartbreaking to meet those with ulterior motives. When Zhang Luli said this, he glanced towards Bai Xiao and the others. Her boyfriend just came to the school twice and already aroused the jealousy of some people. It is inevitable that some people will do shameless things out of jealousy. Women's jealousy has always been terrible. Zhang Luli, who are you talking about, you weirdo? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 119. Chapter 119. The whole situation. Bai Xiao was surfing the internet. He slammed the mouse on the table, raised his head, and looked at Zhang Luli angrily. Zhang Yue was on the same front as her, and she said with a cold face, "Zhang Luli, were you just cursing me and Bai Xiao in a roundabout way? Please make it clear who is the shameless person with ulterior motives." "What, Bai Xiao, are you going to fight with me?" Zhang Luli always had a carefree character and was fearless. She looked into Bai Xiao's eyes that were about to burst into flames and put her hands on her waist. Also said with a sneer, "I didn't mention you a word. I don't know why you are so sensitive, thinking that I am talking about you. Or did I accidentally say something that touched your heart? You didn't mention a word. But do you think we can't hear it?" Bai Xiao gritted his teeth and said, "What qualifications do you, a licking dog, have to criticize us? No matter what we do, we are better than you, a licking dog. 100 times. You open and close your mouth and scream like a god, do you think people will look at you more? When it comes to ulterior motives, I think you are the one who really has ulterior motives. You used to always like to jump around in front of Suzy to see how others treat you. No interest, have you changed your target now?" Haha. Bai Xiao looked her up and down and said disdainfully, "I advise you not to waste your time. Even Suzy doesn't like you, and you, the male god, don't like you even more." After saying that, he looked at Jiao Mian with a mocking look on his face, and said with a strange tone, "Beware of fire, theft, and besties, Jiao Mian, I advise you not to be too careless. Some scheming may seem harmless, but they have many calculations in their hearts. Don't." When the man was snatched away, we still don't know what happened. Bai Xiao, shut the up. As soon as Bai Xiao finished speaking, Zhang Luli was so angry that he raised his fist and rushed towards her. She has an impulsive personality to begin with, but how could she withstand Bai Xiao saying this to her? Her entire popularity was about to explode. As soon as Bai Xiao saw her rushing over, he rolled up his sleeves and rushed towards her. The two men immediately struggled into a ball. Zhang Luli was not as strong as Bai Xiao, so she was quickly pushed down. She grabbed Bai Xiao's hair and pulled it down. Bai Xiao felt the pain and reached out to grab her hair. Both of them grimaced in pain. Here, Jiao Mian saw that Zhang Luli was at a disadvantage, so naturally she couldn't just sit back and watch. Zhang Luli had a conflict with Bai Xiao and the others because of her. "Bai Xiao, stop." Seeing a red mark on Zhang Luli's face, Jiao Mian was anxious and angry, and rushed over with fists raised. Zhang Yue saw Jiao Mian rushing to help, and joined the helping team. The struggle between two people turned into four people. In the dormitory, there was a sudden commotion and a lot of noise. Asterisk. Half an hour later. The vicious fight between the four people alarmed the dormitory and also the counselor. "You can do it. You didn't sleep well at night, and you actually started fighting together. You are going to rebel, aren't you?" The counselor's face was dark, and his finger almost poked Bai Xiao's nose. "Tell me who started it. The person who caused the trouble first should stand up for me." The counselor's Hedong Lion's roar scared Jiao Mian and Zhang Luli to tremble. Bai Xiao and Zhang Yue looked very unconvinced. The fierce fight just now left everyone stained. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 120. Chapter 120. It was she who made the first move. However, it can be seen at a glance that Bai Xiao and Zhang Yue were beaten badly. There were many scratches on their faces and bodies, and their hair was as messy as a chicken coop. Xiao Mian was caught with a red mark on her neck, but everything else was fine. In terms of fighting, neither Bai Xiao nor Zhang Yue is her opponent. If the dormitory ant hadn't arrived in time just now, Xiao Mian could have beaten them to tears. Counselor, it was Zhang Luli who caused this first. Bai Xiao touched the scratches on his face, gritted his teeth in pain and complained, she was the one who cursed first, and she was the one who made the first move. I don't. If I fight back, do I still want to let her hit me? You fart. Zhang Luli turned his head, glared at her fiercely, and said angrily, did I scold you? It's obviously because you have something in your heart that you think the person I scolded is you. Also, don't you were the one who told lies with your eyes open. If you hadn't spoken so harshly, would I have wanted to beat you up? I'll beat you up if you talk meanly. Counselor, you heard everything, Bai Xiao said with a livid face. She was the one who made the move first. That's because you're a bitch-tongued and deserve to be beaten. Zhang Luli, you. Okay, please stop arguing, this is the training office, not a place for you to quarrel. Seeing several people quarreling again, the counselor was so angry that his head was pounding. He took a deep breath to calm down the urge to run away. After calming down for a while, he said with a straight face, Zhang Luli, do you think you were the one who made the move first? It's me. Zhang Luli raised his neck and spoke in a hard voice. She dares to do it and admit it? Okay, since you were the one who made the first move, then this is your biggest fault, the counselor said in a stern voice. No matter what, you should not attack your classmates. This is a very bad behavior. Counselor, Okay, I don't want to hear any more explanations. Now, go to the playground and run 3 laps. After you finish, come back and write a 1,000-word review for me. As for you. The counselor looked at the other 3 people and snorted coldly, she is at fault, and you are at fault too. Reflect on it when you go back, and hand the self-reflection letter to me tomorrow. Okay, everyone, let's go out. Zhang Luli was extremely angry. Counselor, why don't Bai Xiao and the others go for a run on the playground? The counselor rolled his eyes at her. You are the principal culprit, and they are the accomplices. If you think it is unfair, then add 2 more rounds. Zhang Luli. Bai Xiao and Zhang Yue both had happy smiles on their faces. The playground is so big that even 1 lap is exhausting. After 3 laps of running, I was paralyzed from exhaustion. Zhang Luli deserves this kind of punishment. Just thinking that Xiao Mian was punished the same way as them, the 2 of them felt unhappy again. The person who really made them feel unhappy was not Zhang Luli, but Xiao Mian. But they cannot influence the counselor's decision. The 2 of them glared at Zhang Luli with gloating eyes, then turned and walked outside. Xiao Mian stood still. She looked at Zhang Luli, and then said, Counselor, I am willing to accept the same punishment as Luo. I will also go to the playground and run 3 laps. Zhang Luli was stunned for a moment and frowned in disapproval. Baby, what are you doing with me? You go back. I'll accompany you. Xiao Mian took her hand and said resolutely, I won't go back alone. I just go to the playground to run 3 laps. It's nothing. Just treat it as exercise. End of this chapter.